I want to try to explain something that's very complex in as simplistic as a form as I can. The globalists want to create 3 mega regions with 10 sub-regions, destroy the original sovereignty of each country, and replace it with a regional government that then only deals with sub-districts within the original area. So I want cultural, racial, religious, or historical states, not because they're perfect, but because next to the globalist, synthetic, New World Order blob, it's a firewall or a redoubt. I would love to see Texas at this point secede from the Union and form its own republic and control our own borders. We would be wealthy beyond our wildest dreams. America's already gone. It's already been taken over by the globalists. We could reestablish the republic here in Texas and then set up a new state federation with other states as it went. I'm sorry, America's already captured by the globalists. If we could get the republic back, I would want to do it. But at this point, I'm all for Texas secession. That's why the feds ran underground kooky groups early on to make the idea look bad so no one would accept it. Now it's more popular than ever. Major polls show a majority of Texans want to secede right now. Scotland's actually doing it and is set to vote next week. The Queen has said, don't you dare do it, and freaked out about it. The Prime Minister, oh my gosh. Look, I've got Scottish, British, you name it, German background. I don't have a dog in the fight. I would be for Welsh independence. I would be for Irish independence from the EU and the globalist. I am for people being independent. And when you've got something based on a culture and a history, that is far better having the people control their oil and natural gas and state properties of the people than the globalist and the Transylvanian king and queen. They literally are Transylvanian. Nothing against Romanians, just they're not even German. And so Scottish John joins us. We're going to go to break and come back with him. And, of course, born to an Irish mother and Scottish father. I won't read his whole bio. Growing up in Scotland and then in Ireland, he then traveled the world and worked in manufacturing and in industry. Then he became an actor, coming to Texas, moving back to London. He's been all over the place. But working in the Philippines, he met a lot of Texans. That's why he moved here. And I've just kind of boiled that down. We're going to break in a moment. But it's got to be over a decade I've run into you out at Second Amendment demonstrations, property rights demonstrations, Scottish John. And so now you're here. You got a promo that runs with us talking about standing up against the New World Order. And how long have you been in Austin?
I've been in Austin 16 years, Alex. And I first met you when you were showing your movie 9/11 Road to Tyranny.
So 12 years ago.
There you go. Yeah. I'd just finished working for Mike Hansen at the time. And we met in the Alamo Draft House that night down on there.
Did we have a pint?
No, we didn't. It's like, if we'd gone for a pint, we'd probably still have been sitting there bevying and yakking.
Oh, man. Well, anyways, you're hearing me get all wound up and rant through all this news.
I know.
I'm always exhausted after the show, but that's what I do. But when we come back, I'm going to try to give you the floor to break down some of the basics of Scotland, what independence means. They've now got big banks trying to pull their money out and stuff. They tried to do that to Iceland as well, but the Vikings stood their ground. And so I do support independence, but the Scots have got to watch out because the globalist will come back in other ways.
Absolutely.
But this is the way to go. This is the way to get out of the New World Order, is to secede from it. Well, the New York Times came out yesterday and said all over the world, millions are hitting the streets in Catalonia and Spain, you name it, saying they want secession as well. So the whole world's watching what's happening in Scotland. From Texas to Spain, it's happening, and Scottish John is here. Tell us about that song, why you wanted to air that. Tell us about the name Scottish John, and then get into what's really happening with Scottish independence. And you were telling me off air all the dirty tricks they're running, trying to stop you guys from getting away from the UK. Why wouldn't you get away from England? I mean, it took England 500, 600 years to finally conquer by force. And then you can go back to Bannockburn in 1314, beating them for a while. I mean, this is, I just can't believe that, that Scotland would ever be under the UK.
Yeah. Well, that song, Alex, is a song called Letter from America by a couple of brothers called Craig and Charlie Reid. And it was written in the 80s as a result of what was happening to industry back home as a result of Thatcher's policies. And we were losing all our jobs. Industry was being shut down. And people, in order to find a job, were having to go wherever they could. Some people went to America. I ended up going to the Philippines because the industry that I was in, I could get work there because my industry in particular, which was the textile industry, was all being shipped out to the Far East where labour was very cheap. But of course, they needed people with experience and skill so I ran a couple of factories out in Manila in the Philippines. I came back after 2 years of that and saw the explosion of unemployment figures, and it's really shocking. And basically, this was a specific plan to shut down manufacturing in Britain, and
now they've done it here.
Yeah, that shocked me when I came here. I guess, like most people, I thought America was different.
And now the robots are going to replace the people, and the globalists say they've got a plan to just get rid of us.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I guess, like most people, when I started hearing language like that years ago, you say, it's crazy. But when you think about it now, no, they have no need for us. Absolutely no need for us.
Tell me about your T-shirt.
My T-shirt is it's just an acknowledgement of the Battle of Bannockburn. It was a battle that Robert the Bruce won where Scotland gained independence.
And of course, William Wallace paved the way for that.
Yeah. And just on that note, William Wallace, one of his famous victories with the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Now, in this shenanigans that's going on at home at the moment, somebody spray painted a swastika on Stirling Bridge. And that is just disgusting. That is unforgivable. It's unconscionable to do something like that. My God.
Who do you think did it?
That's debatable.
Well, talk about Scottish independence for people that don't know why it's so important, because it's already sending shockwaves across the world.
Yeah. Well, what has happened to Scotland economically and socially has been as a result of Westminster's decisions. And traditionally, we've had a Conservative or Tory government in Westminster, which was never voted in by Scottish people. There'd be very, very few Scots who would vote for the Tory party. But because of the demographics of Britain as a whole, 2/3 of the British population lives in the southeastern section of England. So it's tilted in their favour for representation at Westminster. Now, eventually, they gave us what they call devolution in 1999. You know, sort of not real self-determining powers, but just to keep us happy. You know, they chuck a couple of sweeties at us, as we'd like to say.
For people that don't know, that's why we have the Electoral College here as well. You can't let the more populous states outvote the other states and then basically make them their slaves.
Yeah.
And that's the same issue you're dealing with.
Yeah. And we always thought the Labour Party being against the Tories were our friends. And of course, we find out now that's not true. The Labour Party were popular in Scotland because that was the only way they were going to retain enough seats in Westminster to maybe give them a chance to be in the government. Well, we saw what happened when Tony Blair won for the Labour Party. I kind of supported him when he came on the scene. I thought I understood what he was doing. He was shifting the sort of Labour theme more to the centre because, look, we got to do something to get the Tories out. But it turns out, no, he was a shill. Absolute shill.
We're going to come back and talk about the big vote coming up next week with Scottish John and find out why he calls himself Scottish John. And we'll open the phones up from folks from Scotland. Stay with us. Get your phones ready. You like that? I think the Empire is on the run. Scotland's about to say bye-bye. How the globalists destroy national sovereignty, destroy any cultural sovereignty, and bring in their plastic, synthetic Agenda 21. It's way past zoning. It's UNESCO, global governance, down to the political correctness, the speech, the light bulbs, the toilets, the food, the roads. It's total global governance covertly being put into place. And England, the UK, was a very strong, wealthy, rich people. And so they use the English and others to then just expand this corporatist black nobility system that had come out of Italy, basically. And then you had the Norman invasion, and that brought that imperialistic system to it. And so it's not blaming the UK or the British people today. They're kind of the vestigial heart of this modern planetary program. It's just like the fact that we see eugenics coming out of the UK. It comes out of the Saxe-Coburg-Gothas, a Transylvanian bloodline. We first talked about this in the mid-90s. People thought we were crazy. It's now mainstream news that the British royalty isn't British. They have the fake name Windsor. That's not their name. It's Saxe-Coburg-Gotha and a bunch of other names. And they're not even German. They are from Transylvania and are the direct descendants of Vlad the Impaler, or Count Dragon, Count Dracula. And that's why the old symbol for England, you know, before that, I mean, they didn't start fully coming over. You had a bunch of different houses. You had the Plantagenets and then the Tudors. I'm not going to go through the whole issue, but for a long time, at least 500 years, there's been this influence going on in England. And I'm not bashing people from Transylvania. It's just that literally the world empire goes directly back to Count Dracula. You cannot make something up this weird. Truth is stranger than fiction. Scottish John, get into some of the history of Scotland, this vote coming up, what some of the scams are that are getting pulled to try to keep you guys from going for independence.
Yeah, this is an issue that it's hard to understand. These people who have treated Scotland basically as a poor cousin for hundreds of years, now all of a sudden, when we want to leave, they're begging us to stay. And they're promising us, oh, we'll give you more powers, we'll give you this. Well, why didn't you give us this before? The reason we want to part from you is because of the way you've treated us historically. You know.
Well, you owe it to your ancestors to be independent.
Absolutely. The blood that's been spilt on Scottish soil over hundreds of years, it's just, it breaks my heart. And the thing that I'm concerned about now is the way this campaign is being manipulated. I was listening to some people in the Northern Islands this morning. They had to do it by postal vote. So they voted over a week ago. And what's happened since then, they've heard and said, well, I'm sorry, I voted for no now. I want to vote yes, but it's too late. There's also, the BBC are complicit in trying to screw this up. I'm very disappointed in the BBC, Alex. The BBC that I knew when I was a younger man, I had complete faith in. They're supposed to be unbiased because they're not supported by commercial interests. It's paid for by the licence payer, the British public. But now they're into it. They're up to their neck in dirty tricks.
What are some of the dirty tricks? I mean, we're hearing from the Queen, Cameron, all of them. Big banks are going to pull money out, on and on and on.
Yeah.
But then you guys will get access to all your own oil and gas, huge reserves of it, trillions and trillions of pounds, just ready to be put into the Treasury. It could almost be like Alaska, where the citizens all get a check every year.
Yeah. Well, one of the things they've done is they brought on a so-called expert and say, well, you know, there's not as much oil left as you Scots think there is, so it's going to run out in... Well, if we stayed with England, it's going to run out anyway. What difference does it make? But one thing I found out yesterday, there was a guy, he's an ex-ambassador to... where is he? Estonia, somewhere like that. No, Uzbekistan. He was an ex-ambassador to Uzbekistan. And it turned out that in 1999, when the Devolution Act was being signed over by the Westminster Parliament by Tony Blair, the English government shifted the maritime line in the North Sea off the Scottish coast, and it took away 9 oil fields from Scotland. And this was done under a cover of darkness, so to speak. Nobody knew.
You guys should demand it back. Well, once you got your country back.
Yes. If we get...
They had a war with the Falklands, they're going to have one with Scotland.
I know, yeah. That was about sheep. Imagine fighting a war about sheep, eh?
Yeah.
Talk about pulling the wool over your eyes. God almighty. Yeah, that was Thatcher. Yeah. But, yeah, it's sad to see the dirty tricks that are being played. I was going to say, yesterday, I saw a video yesterday. There's a bunch of Labour MPs showed up in Glasgow, and they're marching through the centre of Glasgow, and there's a guy in a pedicab following him around, and he was playing the theme tune to InfoWars on a big boombox, really loud. It was just... giving them all a bunch of grief. But they were all going to see all these no voters, all these people, these stupid no. So I don't understand.
Well, explain. So how do you vote if you do want to have sovereignty?
You vote yes.
Yes. But they've confused it where people think you vote no.
Oh, did I say the wrong thing there? Yeah. They're trying to muddy the water so much. And you'll see something on YouTube, for example, and then you read the comments, and the comments are like chalk and cheese, and you think to yourself, well, how do you take from what he just said so differently from someone else? It'd be like you saying to me, Nelson Mandela was white. And I say, no, wait a minute, I don't think so. How could you...
Well, that's like Obama saying there's no boots on the ground when he just sent 1,400 troops in the last month, 400 of them the day he says it, over to fight supposedly ISIS. And then he says that ISIS isn't Islamic. I mean, it's just lying to our face. And I know they've done it for a while, but now it's really getting intense. What are some of the other dirty tricks? Go over some of the history of Scotland for folks that don't know, some of the basics.
Well, we just a country of people that just wanted to mind their own business. Historically, we had the clans, and we had a different kind of way of living than the English. Sometimes there'd be a skirmish between the clans, but there was always a lot of respect. One of the dark incidents.
Clans or tribes?
Yeah,
tribes.
Basically, yeah. And we fought the last Jacobite campaign, the famous Bonnie Prince Charlie thing, the second Jacobite uprising in 1745, and we lost that. The English came in and carried out what they called the Highland clearances, which kind of scattered the Scots all over the globe. But just prior to that, there was the famous battle in Ireland by Prince William of Orange, the guy who came from Holland and kind of got plonked on the vacant English throne at the time. And this was a religious war, the Protestant Orange against King James's Catholic troops. And what happened shortly after that was, while they're trying to sort out all the business with the clans up in Scotland, stop us from wearing the tartan and bar us from playing bagpipes and just trying to destroy our culture, basically, all the clan chiefs were called to Inverness, which is a city in the north of Scotland, to pay their taxes. Now, William of Orange had set up this thing to where the MacDonald clan were coming over the Highlands, and because of the weather, they were getting slowed down. So they stopped at the Campbell headquarters, their camp. And it was a Scottish tradition. If a different clan was visiting, you showed them hospitality. You put them up, you fed them. Well, what they did there was, in the dark of night, they slaughtered the MacDonald clan. They murdered them in cold blood. And that's the kind of tricks that they've played against us over the years. I'm not a really educated historian, Alex, but just basically we've been a. Well,
it's the old saying, why did the sun never set on the British Empire?
Exactly.
Because God wouldn't trust an Englishman in the dark. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Welsh and everything, but I'm a Heinz 57. I don't have a dog in the fight. I can just see the center of government manipulation, the fraud systems that were brought into the UK, that were brought into those islands, is now the global system. And people need to be aware of that.
Exactly.
So it is a big defeat for the establishment if Scotland breaks away, in my view.
Yeah.
There are some pitfalls, because then you've got competing globalist arms. You'll just have Goldman Sachs come in there and try to take over your government and buy you off that way, even slicker. Mm-hmm. But still, it's the self-determination of the fact that your country's been conquered for 300 years. You want to get it back.
Yeah. And kind of one of the tricks of players, there was an excellent example of this in the movie Braveheart, where old Longshanks is saying there, well, we'll offer such and such a clan chief, we'll give him estates and lands in such and such an area, just to break. But further down the line, he's going to come and murder that guy. And what happened during my lifetime, in my working life there, when all the jobs were lost and the manufacturing industry just collapsed, they were very clever in that they left a certain amount of people in work just to maintain the status quo, so to speak.
They do it in phases.
Yeah, but to keep those people, then they would zip it because they didn't want to lose their jobs. So that's how it's the old divide and conquer thing.
They know what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
You got a bunch of notes. Let's run through your notes here. You got like 3 pages of stuff you wrote here.
Yeah. Well, just looking at some of the things that's being discussed in this, I've watched the 2 live debates with Sam and Alistair Darling. What a name, eh? Darling. Good God. A third of the Scottish budget goes on healthcare. Now, what does that say about a country that a third of your budget has to go on healthcare? Why is that? It's because people don't have jobs that pay them enough to maintain a decent level of health. They're not eating proper food. You know, that's...
Well, people start dying when you go under a national health service.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Salmond and David Cameron, they're 2 cheeks on the same arse. That's all I can say, you know. I'm not a big fan of Alex Salmond. I was never a big supporter of the Scottish National Party, to be honest. When I was a younger man, I supported the Labour Party. Of course, when I got older and wiser, I just realised, naive, you know, but when you're younger, what do young people think about when they're not that interested in politics? If you're a young man, there's 2 things you're interested in.
Let's not say them.
Well, it's women and maybe sport. Me, I love to play football, or soccer as you all call it.
See, with me, I wasn't interested in sports. It was just one thing.
I thought I'd clean it up, you know.
Yeah.
Now, here's another thing. This isn't really to do with Scottish independence, but this is just another thing of how these people work. I remember when Maggie Thatcher was Prime Minister, they started privatising all the national assets, like the gas and the water and the electricity, and they offered the British people shares. You know, you want to be a shareholder? And all they want to be yuppies back then said, oh, yeah, I want to buy shares. Oh, look, I'm a shareholder in BT. Well, big deal, you know. But further down the line, of course, they're tempted into selling their shit because they're offered such a great price. They'll sell them and they maybe double their money. But what happens then? That ownership is then concentrated. Now, what happened, I'll give you one example that sticks in my mind, is South East Water Authority in England was bought over by a French company. Now, what kind of government allows a foreign entity to buy something like...
Well, that's it.
water?
That's why the globalists want to have their own orchestrated breakaways in countries, but then it goes under a new conglomerate. If a country breaks away to its original state and it's based on culture, it tends to have a chance of actually doing something better. I mean, this is all a big experiment, but exactly. The UK has already got 83% of its laws on record made by the EU that is literally Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan.
Exactly.
So you're forced to secede just because even if you wanted to stay in the UK, it's been conquered.
Yeah.
And you know, I really like Nigel Farage and UKIP and the rest of them. But, you know, they're even pro-Crown. Their argument is, well, it's better than the EU, which is our new king and queen. So I get that at a certain level. But at the same time, UKIP's got to support you guys because they are the Independence Party. And now all these other states want to get out of the EU and Europe. And what do you think of the rest of the world looking at Scotland, Catalonia and Spain, Texas, a bunch of other places are now wanting to secede, watching what the Scots are doing?
More power to them. I mean, what greater gift can a human being have than the right of self-determination? Now, you just mentioned something there, the UKIP thing. The Scottish, even if Scotland gets independence, we're still going to be a part of the EU. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, I've heard that there's supposed to be a referendum on that further down the line.
Exactly. You pull out of the UK, then you pull out of the EU.
Yeah. We were lied to about it was the common market back then. I admit it was.
They just said it was a trade deal.
Yeah. And
did you get jobs from it?
No.
The jobs went away on it.
We didn't. No.
Just like NAFTA and GATT.
Absolutely. The farmers lost work. It is, you know.
Same you know what, different you know what.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just a same globalist mercantile scam. Look, when England ran the colonies, they wouldn't let us have manufactured goods. We had to send it back to England and then buy it back as a way to control people. That was the main reason for the war. It wasn't even the taxes, is that they wouldn't let us have industry. Yeah. This is how the globalists control things. Now they've just moved everything to China, out of the U.S., out of even Mexico, out of Scotland, out of Ireland. This is how they control. They go, oh, you're going to be a service economy now.
Yeah.
And then now that's not even working.
No, it's pathetic.
Well, look, we have to buy local. We have to be sovereign. We have to vote with our dollars. Doesn't mean any of us are perfect, but that's how you grow an economy.
Yeah. You're familiar with the name Chuck Harder?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Chuck Harder made a very important point one time. He said,
I've wanted to get him on the show. Yeah. He's really the proto-Rush Limbaugh.
There's three things that a society needs in order to thrive, and that is manufacturing, mining, and agriculture. And if you don't have those three things to a certain degree, then you ain't going to survive.
And under globalism, they don't want any country to have all three or even two of those.
Absolutely.
Because they want the globalist control from outside with their deals, who can get what.
Yeah. And this is what people in Scotland need to realise now. Another interesting aspect of this is the voting age for this particular thing, this referendum, is being dropped to 16 years old. I'm just hoping that they're wise enough and well enough informed that they're going to vote the right way.
Well, I've been seeing the news, though, that targets young people. It's all, stay in the UK, stay in the... Yeah, it's a bunch of brainwashing.
You know, over the years, I left Scotland in 1969 when my folks split up, and I ended up in England. And over the years, as I was travelling up home to visit, I could just see the industrial landscape deteriorating year after year.
And also in Northern England, look at Sheffield.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Sheffield, the steel industry, that was a massive industry in Sheffield years ago.
But they're not allowed to have any of it now. It had to all move to India because of carbon taxes, and India pays none. And then the UN head, Pachari, made the money. Alex Jones here for Infowars.com. In the month of July, we have got giant specials on everything at MadeIn1776.com. The already discounted Made in 1776 t-shirts are only $17.76. We have the new belt buckles that in only 2 weeks of sale are very close to selling out. There's only 500 of each. We're talking about Made in America belt buckles in nickeled brass. This is more than a summer blowout special. This is a new declaration of independence. But to expand the InfoWar, we're offering the equivalent of more than 5 months free right now when you get a membership at prisonplanet.tv. For a limited time, only $39.95 a year. That's more than 5 months free off the regular price. Not just this July 4th weekend, but the entire month of July at MadeIn1776.com. Molon Labe, you can take my gun from my cold, dead hands.
You are watching the best of the Alex Jones Show, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Watch live at Infowars.com/show or become a member of InfoWarsNews.com and help us take resistance to the next level.
I've just run into this guy for more than 10 years. It's got to be. He can probably remember at pro-gun rallies, you name it. He goes out and holds up signs in front of the city council all the time. He's really active. And then I thought, why don't I have him do a promo, promoting liberty? So he does that, and he's here with us. By the way, I'm going to give you a bottle of this Oxy Power. This, I've been taking it 2 weeks, 3 or 4 nights a week now. Absolutely flushes out your guts like nothing I've ever seen. We're selling it at InfoWarsLife.com, discounted directly from Dr. Group. He has all the proprietary documentation on it at InfoWarsLife.com. Your purchases of X2, Nascent Iodine, your purchases of Super Male Vitality, Silver Bullet, all of it is absolutely essential. And with all these new viruses and mutated things popping up, now is the time to get your gut in line. It's 80% of your immune system, most scientists agree, and medical doctors. It's so key. This is why I'm getting so much into health. Plus, we fund our operation with high-quality supplements and products. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. Scottish John, you want me to give you a bottle of this Oxy powder?
Why not, sir?
All right, here's the bottle. Hey, so you got to promise to take it and call and tell me what happens.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'd only take a few at first.
I'll keep a log.
Because you're going to think...
No pun intended. I'll keep a log.
It'll absolutely... Well, you write love letters to the Queen of England with it. The point is that... You were telling me a really bad joke about the Queen of England. Do you have any family-friendly ones? Look, for me, a woman wearing a diamond headdress and then to have world leaders bowing to her, I want to vomit when Obama does it to the Saudi king or her. My ancestors fought to not be under a monarch. It makes me want to puke. I mean, and nothing against England. I mean, I got a lot of English, Welsh blood, myself proud of it. One of my ancestors... Gresham invented the stock exchange on record. I had a British family came over on the Mayflower, both sides. It's just at the same time, the people of England don't want to be under the EU and under the Queenie. What is the argument to stay under the Queenie? Here's your bottle.
it's brainwashing. Some people
The
think
new royal baby's coming.
Oh, I can't tell you how excited I am about that, Alex. Would need to go into overdrive.
They have over 100 palaces.
I know,
They have 3 private trains, over 100 aircraft. But then old people are being cut off their gas in the middle of winter.
Well, I think Prince Philip.
The royalty.
I think Prince Philip will be delighted because apparently he's very fond of children. If you get my drift.
Well, he does publicly, like if a light bulb's out on TV, they won't let him on live television. They go, that light bulb is out. Is a black in the area? Must have been a black if a light bulb's out. And, of course, he's basically a Nazi. You know that, right? He's a eugenicist.
Yes.
And his cousin, Prince Bernhard, was an SS officer.
Do you know how I found that out? I was listening to you one time, and I heard you say that he was German. And I said, you sure? Because we grew up, and his nickname was Phil the Greek.
Yeah, of course, because he was basically the prince over the Greek island at the time, Cyprus.
There you go. But, yeah, after I heard you saying that, yeah, I researched it, and, yeah, sure enough, he's a kraut. Yeah.
Well, they're always saying that...
I've got to apologise to the Germans for that because I haven't met any Germans that I didn't like.
Oh, exactly. Well, but the thing is, he's not even a kraut.
I know.
He's Transylvanian.
Yeah.
He's Romanian.
He's a schmuck. God almighty. I can't believe I used to love those people.
Well, you know, the King of England who had to advocate in World War II, it wasn't over him marrying an American woman.
Yeah.
It's because he had to flee Germany when the bombing started.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all the photos with him lovey-doving Hitler.
Yeah. You know, when I lived in London, I used to work. I worked in catering because as an actor, you had to be very flexible. So working catering gave you that flexibility to be free. So I used to work lots of functions where I'd be serving the royal family, members of Parliament.
I didn't know that.
Used to work in the House of Parliament. I'll tell you a funny story about the House of Parliament.
Let's do 5 more minutes. I want to hear some of these stories.
All right.
And we'll have you back sometime. Scottish independence next week. Tell me your gut.
Okay.
Tell me your gut. Are they going to vote to leave the UK?
I hope so. I hope.
What does your gut tell you?
Yes!
Yeah! Ah! You got to tell us how you got the name Scottish John.
Yeah.
In our last little 5-minute segment, I had some really serious news.
Okay.
But you've got to do that little riddle rhyme.
Right.
That you just did about the Queen of England because we don't ever want to disrespect her.
No.
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, Alex, you talking about these, it reminded me of...
Fat Bassett, oh, me tummy.
All right, my belly. But in Scotland, if you have a condition called diarrhea, I don't want to get too guttural here, but we call it the skitters. And I wrote a song years ago called The Skitters Hum, and one of the verses in this song was dedicated to the Queen, and it goes like this. Now, over in Merry England, in a place called London Town, there's a bird on the scene, they call her the Queen. You can't miss her, she wears a crown. Now, the royals, they don't get skitters, no, because that would be unfair. So when Queenie lets one go, they call it London Derriere.
I know somebody that hung out some with Sean Connery. Back in the day, and he would say, let's go get some birds.
There you go.
So I guess you call girls birds, not chicks, birds.
Birds, we say birds, yeah.
Birds.
Yes, we won't talk about Pushy Galore in the Goldfinger movie, you know. Yes, Pushy, I would love.
Well, I'm sure Sean Connery he didn't actually act like that in real life.
I've no idea. He used to be a milkman in Edinburgh. Anyway, Scottish John, do you know who Dale Watson is?
Yes.
Dale gave me that nickname when I came to Austin. I'd known Dale. I'd seen him play 3 times in London, so I probably met Dale either 95 or 96. And when I came to Austin, he used to get me up and sing with his band up at Jenny's Little Longhorn, and he just called me Scottish John. Now, when your hero, Dale Watson's my hero because of what he's done for country music. You know, I'm a country musician myself, and what happened with country music in the 90s, I thought that was the CIA did that because it's horrible.
Well, they didn't like outlaw country. They ruined it on purpose.
Yeah. So that's why I carry the name Scottish John with a lot of pride because Dale Watson gave me that nickname.
Very interesting. I know Weldon knows him. People love him all over the world.
Yeah, I know.
In fact, I go to New York and they go, oh, we love Dale Watson.
Absolutely. Yeah. And who do they love here? Tim McGraw. It must be the fluoride in the water, yeah?
I like Waylon Jennings.
Oh, he's man. Like I said in my wee short bio there, It was when I was in the Philippines hanging out with these Texas guys. They were working oil field in the South China Sea. And we are just used to drink at the same bars and eat at the same restaurant. I'm hanging out with a bunch of them one night and somebody put on a tape and I heard Waylon Jennings singing I've Always Been Crazy, and then I heard Willie singing Yesterday's Wine, and I went, some people find Jesus. I found Waylon and Willie.
I tell you, I went down to Grand Cayman, and they just love Texans there, like real Texans with the Texas voice. And everywhere I go in the world, people like Texans, and I guess because old-fashioned Texans are pretty friendly and funny. The sad part about it is Texas, nothing against Californians and folks like that, but I'd rather have people from Scotland or somewhere in like Africa or wherever, as long as they're real people. California is so plastic. And I talked to folks that lived in California 60 years ago or so. It was totally different. It was more like Texas. It is that fake Hollywood culture it ruins everything.
Yeah. You look at the musical talent that's come out of Texas. Waylon, Willie, Ray Price, Chris Christopherson, George Jones, Bob Wills. It's phenomenal. That's a phenomenal pool of talent. So that has to say something about Texas. You know, that's unique.
Who's your favorite country music singer right now? Dale Watson?
Oh, that's a hard question. Waylon, Willie.
You ever run into Willie around town?
I've got Willie's autograph on my guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've played chess with him.
I know. Well,
I'm not bragging. It's just
I used to do an annual...
And I've done other things.
I used to do an annual birthday bash for Willie when Mother Egan's Irish Pub was down here on 6th Street.
Oh, yeah.
And you know who used to come and watch us play? I didn't know who he was at the time, but your buddy Mike Judge used to come and watch us.
Oh, Mike's great. He's been in town a lot lately. I just hadn't had time to go hang out with him. He's awesome. You know, I was talking to Jimmy Vaughn. He said, and it's true, but I'm not a master guitarist like him, so I wouldn't know. He said that Mike Judge is one of the best guitarists he knows, period. Yeah. Like the top 5. That guy's a genius right there.
Yeah.
You know, he has like 180 IQ. He can do like math. Well, listen, Scottish Sean, good having you in. I hope that they vote for independence, and I just hope Scotland does well. And I've still never been to Scotland. I've been to England a bunch, but I'm going to go there next. Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Here's to us. There's an end like us.
All right. We'll be back. Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our Immune Support Infusion Blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great-tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com.